Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to break down the raw, unfiltered truth about what it actually takes to achieve lasting greatness. Get this staggering stat from the source material. Roughly 92% of people who set ambitious New Year's goals completely abandon them by the second week of February. Crazy, right? Well, today, we are leaving behind all that empty hype, those viral shortcuts, and those fleeting bursts of inspiration. We're going to focus entirely on how you can build real, unshakable power. If you want to finally own your results and completely transform your life, you are in the exact right place. Let's get into it.
So let's dive into this massive question. Why do the most naturally talented people often end up losing? Well, as our source material reveals, the answer has absolutely nothing to do with luck or perfect timing or having some sort of raw, innate genius. Take the brilliant startup founder mentioned in our source text, for example. They had this revolutionary idea, perfect market timing, the whole shebang. Yet they got entirely crushed by a competitor whose product was honestly pretty boring, but who simply out-executed them every single day. Everybody wants to win, right? We all want the results, the money, the recognition, but almost no one is actually willing to do what it takes to follow through.
All right, Section 1, the myth of the spark, and why effort alone just isn't enough.
Think about the stark contrast between a spark and a fire. A spark is so loud on day one. We all know the type, right? It's the person who buys a $500 running jacket, posts a super aesthetic picture of their pristine new gear online, and then never actually hits the pavement again after week one. They're constantly chasing shortcuts. They desperately need a highlight reel to keep going. The thing is, everybody wants to win on day one, but people who rely on that initial spark just vanish the second the hype dies. Now the fire, that's totally different. Those building a fire are still out there grinding when it gets incredibly, painfully mundane. They stack their wins in total silence, proving they don't need a crowd's applause to keep moving forward.
Here's the absolute kicker. Putting in maximum effort for a single week literally means nothing. Success does not care about your intense bursts of energy if they only last for a few days. As the data reveals, the top performers out there do something really specific. They completely detach their actions from their emotions. They definitely don't always feel like training or working, but their feelings aren't in the driver's seat. Success only respects the man or woman who shows up hour after hour, day after day, regardless of how they feel in the moment. It's not about who's loudest at the starting line, it's all about who is still locked in when the motivation entirely evaporates.
Moving on to Section 2, the reality of the grind and embracing the lonely work.
The source hits us with a really hard truth here. Consistency simply doesn't look cool. Waking up at 4:30 a.m., lacing up your shoes in the freezing cold without a single soul in sight, or choosing hard, boring tasks over easy distractions. None of that is glamorous, but it is the exact mechanism that separates the dreamers from the doers. It's what you do when nobody is texting you to say, let's go, and when your own mind is whispering that, hey, maybe you've done enough for today. True greatness is entirely unglamorous in the making.
You can really see this play out when you look at how the crowd thins over time. On day one, the starters are just full of hype, talking a big game about their massive plans, while the finishers just quietly put their heads down and begin the work. Give it a month, and the reality of the grind sets in. The starters are already making excuses and vanishing. But the finishers, they're still showing up, even when it intensely tests their patience. Fast forward to year one, and the starters are long gone. The finishers, however, have built a fortress of unstoppable power. Starters always fade out when the discomfort hits, but finishers, they terrify the average person because they simply refuse to leave the dirt.
All right, Section 3, motivation versus discipline, the quiet, steel-like focus. Motivation is loud. It needs constant noise and applause to survive. It's the thing that makes you wait for January 1st or a random Monday morning just to get started, and it entirely collapses the second real pressure is applied. Discipline, on the other hand, discipline acts like a shield. It is entirely different. It's that cold, quiet, steel-like focus that protects your goals from your constantly changing moods. Discipline gives you the exact same strength on your worst days as it does on your absolute best. It's that silent agreement with yourself where you look in the mirror and say, I don't care how I feel today, I don't care who's watching, let's do it again.
And this right here is where the real transformation happens. Instead of being addicted to the newest hacks, plans, or shortcuts like most people are, real discipline demands that you execute in the most uncomfortable environments. You build your armor in the storm and the mud. This is the quiet, dirty work. You're studying while others are just endlessly scrolling on their phones. You're sharpening your blade while others snooze. True beasts aren't built when the sun is shining and life is easy. No, they are forged in the grind that nobody ever talks about, deep down in the absolute trenches of the work.
Which brings us to Section 4, the momentum machine, or as I like to call it, stacking bricks. The mechanics of building momentum usually play out in 3 distinct phases. On day 1, you are dealing with invisible reps. You're dead tired, putting in massive amounts of effort, and there is absolutely zero applause. Honestly, it feels like pushing a boulder uphill. But as you push through to being months in, you undergo a shift. You become this silent monster, quietly stacking bricks and gaining ground while everyone else is distracted. The work still feels heavy, but your capacity to handle it has grown. Finally, years later, the dam breaks. Your compounded effort becomes an unstoppable force, and suddenly the whole world notices what looks to them like an overnight success. But you know the truth. 1,000 tiny, unglamorous steps eventually created a massive force that cracked the wall wide open.
I really want you to let this profound concept sink in for a moment. You never lose if you never leave. As the source powerfully puts it, you weren't beaten, you left. Actually, scratch that. You didn't lose, you quit. You don't lose because you aren't naturally gifted enough. You lose because you step back when the weight gets incredibly heavy. Refusing to leave the mountain, refusing to disappear when things get undeniably tough, well, that alters the equation entirely. It makes defeat literally impossible.
And finally, Section 5, the ultimate identity shift. This is all about pulling success towards you. This is the identity evolution, where consistency stops being just a thing you do and becomes who you fundamentally are. Step 1 is simply showing up, performing those lonely reps when no one is watching. Step 2 is building armor, allowing the gap to widen between you and the quitters with every single day you stay in the fight. Step 3 is becoming the storm. Think of the long-distance runner from our source material who didn't just magically leap to a world record, but shaved off mere seconds every single day. When you stack that daily self-respect and consistently walk right through the pain, you transform from a simple contender into an absolute problem that your industry or your competition simply cannot ignore. You don't just chase success anymore, you pull it toward you.
As you embody this new identity, your work becomes way too loud to silence. You aren't desperately reaching for a spark anymore. You've built the roaring fire we talked about at the very beginning of this explainer. You have made the result inevitable. And when the respect finally rolls in, you won't even be surprised. You stand tall not for the world's praise, but because you kept that brutal, solitary promise to yourself when no one else would. You knew the truth. Enough is never enough when lasting greatness is the ultimate goal.
So look, the next time your brain is literally begging you to skip the work, the next time you feel like just waiting around for a burst of inspiration, remember exactly who you are. You are not built to be average. You are not wired to just coast through life. You are here to dominate, one boring, powerful, consistent day at a time. Keep showing up, because one day your consistency is going to look like everything they ever wanted, and only you will have it.
If you are built differently and this explainer got you fired up, make sure to subscribe to Elmi Motivations right now. Drop an I show up in the comments below to affirm that you are locked in. I want you to ask yourself right now, will you be the one who never leaves, or will you just fade away like all the rest? Keep showing up, keep grinding, and never, ever back down.